So you and I talked about this last year because it didn't get nearly enough conversation or coverage that maybe it should have, because there was too much focus on the other circus that was going on inside the building. But the story of Jaquan Brisker, Penn State alum, speaking of, we mentioned Mark Carrier, who likes to crack. Jaquan Brisker is one of those guys too. He'll lay the lumber. So much so that he suffered last year his third concussion in 3 seasons. And so, it's like, all right, this is, starting to happen more and more. The problem with the one he suffered last year was he missed the final 12 games of the year. He could never get right. And you can call into question why he was allowed to stay in the game. He laid the hit before halftime, finished the game, and then it was later on that night he reported that he was dealing with some symptoms and missed the entire season afterwards. So he is working his way back with the Bears. He is trying to get back and ready to go. And he spoke about his journey, suffering the concussion, the rehab process he went through, and sort of what the conversations have been like when it comes to his future moving forward.
So I went to a doctor in Pittsburgh, and he basically just explained the type of concussion I had and told me how to retrain it. So really just doing exercises, and that's really what I had to do. And then I did further more later on when I got to California.
What kind of concussion did you have?
Vascular. That's what he told me. So
a lot of talk about you in terms of your long-term health, just because you've had multiple concussions. People wondering how durable you are and how long you could withstand this. Does that go through your head too? Are you worried about yourself?
No, I'm not. I'm good. I'm past that point. I'm really moving on. So I'm just focused on playing ball. I'm really cleared, man, and I'm really good. So
were there people telling you, hey, you might want to think about, I don't know, the R word, retirement or something like that? Like just how serious these have been. Was that a conversation at all?
No. Not with no one, especially not myself, not with my parents. Like, I feel like if my parents, say something, is deep. So if it didn't come from them or come from me, I'm good. I didn't hear it, to be honest.
So that was Bears safety Jaquan Brisker returning back from a concussion that caused him to miss the final 12 games of last year, the third of his career in his third year. And I would just wonder this, same thing we were wondering about Tua Tagovailoa. The likelihood of him going the rest of his career without another concussion seems low. Like it seems low. So what do you do if it happens again? Like, if it happens again, do you just, hey, as long as he goes through the process, and like, you can't help but wonder and have the conversation, much like Tua, about if this is going to happen again, how do we proceed? And it feels like one of these uncomfortable conversations in the NFL that maybe no one wants to just acknowledge, which is, you know what you're signing up for. And in my mind, if the player's good with it, and he clears whatever protocol there is out there, you got to let him go. I just feel like there's going to be outside voices that are going to get involved, that are going to want to speak on behalf of the people that are on the field going through this entire process.
It's a tough conversation to have, because in the end, the reality of it is that if he does continue to indeed have those concussions, what it truly represents. And it does represent the R word. It does represent having to go in a different direction with what it is that, what your original plan is. You don't want to have any indecision as a player going into these situations. So for him to have the mindset that he has, the way that he's responding, in a lot of ways, it is the right response, because you can't halfway it playing the position that he plays. Because then that could ultimately lead to him, sustaining a different type of injury. I will say he's got to figure out how to keep his head out of the contact zones. So there needs to be a level of adjustment for him, Jonas, in terms of how he approaches tackling. As you mentioned, he is a thumper. He's a tall, he's a bigger type of receiver. Safety. And he'll come downhill and he'll hit you like a linebacker would. Like he brings force. And when you're that type of player We mentioned Mark Carrier earlier. When you're that type of player, you get dinged up. Mark Carrier got dinged up. Ronnie Lott got dinged up. You know, you name some of the bigger hitters. I mean, Sean Taylor might be the only one I didn't see get dinged up when he was knocking people's souls out of their bodies. But Jaquan is going to have to figure out a different approach, because he is very close to being in that danger zone of having to take a serious inventory on what he's supposed to do next. There's no way around that.
And if you're already here at this point, like it almost feels like you're too far down the road of it not having to be not only a concern, but the conversation at least coming up. Like if you're the Bears, because look, Jaquan Brisker, when he's on the field, he's a good player. Like he's a really good player.
Yeah, he's a difference maker.
And he was a second-round pick. This is a big year for him. It's his fourth year. He's going to want to look to get an extension or get a payday if it's not in Chicago, somewhere else. And you mentioned, look, it's his style of play. He even talked about it like he's just going to continue to play the way that he plays. But if the way that he plays means you're averaging a concussion every single year and the most recent one caused you to miss 12 games, I just don't know what the expectation is other than, it's probably going to happen again. Like it's probably going to happen again. It's hard to have, as an organization, it's hard to have a comfort and confidence in extending him without there being a whole lot of contingencies in the contract, right? Like there has to be protection over the organization making a financial commitment to him, knowing what the circumstances are. Whether he sustains another one or not, it just has to be understood that there's a strong possibility he's a concussion away from not being available to you ever again. Because we had mentioned this when the Tua concussions popped up as he was going through them, and it's like you almost not cringe, but when you watch Tua play or take a hit, you're almost going, "Oh boy, is this?" But he's a quarterback, and there are possibilities for Tua to be able to avoid a hit like that. I don't know how Jaquan Brisker avoids this. Like he plays in a contact zone all game. Like I just don't, and you're almost watching him as he goes in to make a play on a ball or make a play on a ball carrier or lay the lumber again, and you're just kind of, oh boy, is he going to get up? Is he going to be okay? He got up last time, and he didn't feel it until later on that night. It just feels like if you're already at the point to where you're having those questions and concerns, is it too late?
I don't have the answers to that. I just know that you have to be cognizant of it. You have to be totally aware of these situations, because the long-term damage that you're doing to yourself is not worth whatever it is that you're trying to do in the present time. It's just not. So while I don't have I'm obviously not qualified to speak on it from the scientific or medical aspect of it, as a player, as a former player, and someone who played that style of football where it was very physical and you made contact, you got to take it into consideration. If they're coming too far, too close and too frequent with what you have going on, and every time you hit somebody, you're getting shook loose, and you're having those symptoms, it's just not long term. It's just, for me, I just don't see how you can take the chance of impacting yourself further than what you already have.
How many did you have in your career that you can think of?
I don't know. I would that I knew I had, like had them and knew I had it.
Because there's the one in Lambeau Field, right, where you hit your head on the turf.
Yeah, I hit my head off the turf. Definitely got one there. I got one against Philadelphia my rookie year when I hit Brian Mitchell. I tell that story a lot. Tim Biaka-Batuka kneed me in my head. That was one. What's that? 3 right there. I believe I had like 4 logged concussions during my entire career.
Now,
4.
At what point, or did you find yourself after a concussion go like, all right, I got to change the way I play?
So I'm telling you, that's the scary part of it.
Because it's kind of what he is. Like, this is who he is.
Well, if your mentality is that of I'm a warrior, I'm a thumper, that's what's a part of what I do, then yeah. But you can still do that and not bang your head up. You really can. I mean, there are ways. Like for me, when I didn't get concussions based off of the way I hit. Like the one concussion that when I hit Brian Mitchell, I mean, that's just law of physics. Like I'm coming downfield 100 miles per hour. He gets the ball and he's starting upfield, and he hadn't quite got to 100 miles per hour yet, but he was running close to full speed, and I collided with him, and I hit him in a way where my head took the brunt of the contact. That might have been the only one. The Tim Biakabatuka one, he kneed me in my head. Like I was in the hole going to make the tackle. He was running and his knees were going up, and he kneed me in the side of my head. Boom. That's not, you can't do anything about that. The one in Lambeau Field, I hit Brett Favre. Bruce Smith hits him at the same time. So we're colliding, and I fall off of Brett and hit the back of my head off of Lambeau Field. It was so cold that day that when I hit my head off of it, it gave me a concussion. So there wasn't even like the things that I did tackling were the reasons.
Freak occurrences almost.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so there's no real way you can get out of. And that's why when people talk about can Tua avoid it, or now we're talking about Jaquan Brisker, it's hard. Like when you understand it that way and you're out there, it's hard to ever be able to guarantee whatever it is adjustments you're going to make, whether it be your equipment, whether it be the way you play. It's hard to avoid things that can happen like concussions in full contact sports.
And there's also the element, as we touched on, that he's going to play the way he plays, that he knows how to play, and you can try and adjust. Like you see it in boxing sometimes. You remember Arturo Gatti, one of the greats. Arturo Gatti's one of the most entertaining fighters. Yeah, because he would be in these firefights with guys, and there was a point to where he was like, okay, I got to be smarter about how I engage. I got to, use my defense a little bit. I've got the skill set to do this. I can't just go out there with reckless abandon. And then he'd get hit one time and be like, F it.
Let's go get it.
Yeah, like that's like, it's just who he was. And that's why people loved him. But
his brain got shook loose. Bro, I used to do fight night in D.C. with Under Armour every year. And let me tell you something. Boxers, I would say they got it the worst out of everybody, bro.
Yep.
Like when you see the legends walking around and kind of the condition that they be in sometimes, man, that's be sad, bro.
Yeah. Like
they be so beat up, like the brain just so beat up, I see that. I see it a lot in the older football players, like the older generation. They didn't have as much protection over them and safety awareness over them as more recent players. So you'll see some older players, man, and it'd be sad.
Yeah.
And technology is so much different now as well. So I don't know, man, but I wish him all the best. I know Jaquan, love him to death. Super awesome dude, super dope dude. Plays the game the way the game's supposed to be played. I just hope that he is very, very aware and very mindful of what it is that, he needs to do for the betterment of himself and the safety of himself, which I believe he will.